It's official. I released my biggest secret in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys are excited for this. I know I am. I am the father. Just kidding. Okay, no, you guys, I don't know how many of you guys actually believe that, but no, many of you guys were commenting under my story saying, oh my goodness, like, are you a dad? Like, you literally like do the devil's tango with everybody. And I'm gonna be brutally honest here for a second, all right? Like, even though like I do the devil's tango a lot, from what I know of, I am not a father, okay? And the reason I'm saying from what I know of is because, you know, in the long run, like I kind of get it, you know, like, you know, we have like these things on paper where it's like condoms and are 100% safe and all this stuff. And, you know, chicks with IUDs don't actually like run through and stuff. I don't know. Like, there's so many like sketch marks to doing the devil's tango. And like I always say in these stories, I don't advise anyone go do it. Like, don't do what I do. It's just not it, chief. But anyways, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba and welcome back to another crazy story. So if you guys saw from the title, yes, this is actually a pretty crazy story. This was back in high school. I remember this was my grade 10 year. Honestly, like this was around the time where like I was like totally going through like my like F-boy phase. And you know, my F-boy phase wasn't the best, I'm gonna be honest, but at the same time, it was just a natural thing to have, I guess, for every boy's life nowadays. It's just, if you really think about it, nowadays society is like, you know, anything could be considered bad for you. Like, I know like we have those kids in school that like vape like chains and stuff, and I know we have like those kids that like sit in their rooms all day playing video games, crying every night. Yeah, basically my life nowadays. But anyways, let's get straight into this. So back in high school, my grade 10 year, I was a natural kid, okay? I was just doing my own thing. I was just, you know, being the F-boy I was. And I remember one time, like, there was this one chick that you know, I always like hooked up with and stuff. And she was a natural chick. She was kind to me and everything. And it wasn't anything severe. Like, we both had our own friend groups. We were doing our own thing. Like we didn't look like we were friends in school. But once we like, you know, got to like either my place or hers, let's just say things did go for the devil's tango. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. But I remember one time specifically, she came over and, you know, we were just hanging out, doing our own thing. And obviously, like, you know, we did the devil's tango and things were all good and delightful. But I want to say like a week went by and, you know, this girl was not talking to me. I don't know what happened, but she was literally just ghosting me. And at first I was like, oh, okay, she ghosted me. Oh, well, time to find a new girl. Like, you know, I was just kind of like letting it go and stuff. Cause, you know, that's what I kind of was like back in high school. Like, I didn't really have any like major attachments other than my Xbox One. But then after that, I realized I got a DM on Snapchat from this girl. And it was like after like a week and a half. And I was like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And she DM'd me and she's like, oh, like, I don't have my period yet. I think something's going on. Like, I'm not bleeding. I think you might have gotten me pregnant. And like, I am very worried. Now, at first I was actually panicking because like, I remember in my head, I'm thinking like, I can't imagine little me's going around saying like, baba booey, baba booey. Like, it's just not it. Like, I had a little panic myself. I am not gonna lie to you guys. But at the same time, I remember like thinking like how I'm gonna get this through and stuff. Cause I know like there's this whole thing with like abortions going on nowadays and stuff. And to be honest, instead of saying my opinion, let a girl do what she wants with her body. That's kind of my whole choice and everything. So whatever choice that is, I guess just go with that, I guess. I don't know. If you guys really want to argue about abortions in the comments, go for it. But I'm not gonna put any entitlement into it. So like I was saying, she messaged me saying that she got pregnant. And obviously I was worried and I was panicking and stuff like that. So I remember I literally texted her saying, hey, meet up with me at like Tim Hortons. If you guys know what that is, it's a Canadian brand because I love Tim Hortons. And me and you can talk about this whole thing and figure it out and make sure everything's okay. She agreed, obviously, and she was like, yeah, okay, like let's go do it. Like, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, like we went down there and we started talking. But then I want to say like an hour went by and one of my homies called me and he was like panicking and stuff over the phone. He's like, oh my goodness, like Bubba, like something crazy just happened, bro. Like, I don't know what's going on, man. And in my head, I'm thinking like, yo, like what's going on? Like, are you okay? Like, what do you need? He told me that he got a chick pregnant. And that's where I was like really iffy on it. Cause I was like, wait a minute. There's no way we're gonna have kids at the same time, bro. No way. Claps, dude. No, I'm just kidding. I did not say that. No, in a way, I was actually like, you know, asking him questions. I was like, oh, what are you gonna do and stuff? Like, are you okay? Like, you know, instead of worrying about myself and about the chick I got problems with, I started asking about his problems and seeing what was going on so I can kind of like learn in a way of what I should do. And he was kind of like freaking out saying like, oh yeah, like this chick, bro, like she was saying like how like I got her pregnant and I'm not sure what to do. And like he was like, it was just freaking out back to back. And I understood it totally because I was kind of feeling the same way. So to think me and my friend were both gonna have kids at the same time was a big worry, or get told that we got a chick pregnant at the same time was a big worry. I should probably reword that real quick. Anyways, so what ended up happening was I told him to literally meet up with this girl and talk to her and stuff like that. And she said, yeah, like I'm meeting her after at Tim Hortons after she's done with her dad and stuff. And, you know, I was just worried and stuff. And I'm like, in a Tim Hortons? What? I'm meeting my chick in a Tim Hortons. What what the heck? So I remember what ended up happening was we both had the same meeting on like the exact same day, but at different times. It was like an hour later compared to mine, which really was odd to me and stuff like that. But to be honest, like I wanted to be there and support him and stuff. So I asked him, and I was asking him like all these questions like, hey, do you want me to come with you and stuff like that? He's like, no, I don't want this girl knowing, like, you know, I'm telling people, like, I want to make sure everything's okay. You can come like after and we can hang out after. And I said, okay, that's fine. Even though like, you know, I have the same issues going on. All right. So what ended up happening is that exact same day, me and this girl were heading to the Tim Hortons. We were walking, we were talking, we sat down, we had a cup of coffee, and we were just talking about, you know, how like, you know, this all came about and stuff. And the thing that really freaked me out, and when I actually started digesting like this could be my kid, was the part where she pulled out like that little like thing, that like little stick that tells you if you're pregnant or not. And she's like, this is yours. And I'm like looking at that thing and I'm just like shaking, and I'm like, are you joking? At that moment I was really debating on calling my dad, because I knew my dad was like always by my side back then for when it came to this kind of stuff. Even though he never like, you know, supported it and stuff, like he was always there for me. Because I'm not gonna lie, like I said, in high school I always did mistakes. But like I was saying though, I remember just sitting there, standing there, like just looking at that thing, and I'm thinking, there is no way in hell that's mine. I don't know, guys. This is gonna sound really crazy, but every time I do the devil's tangle, like I take precaution, you know, my pull-out game's #1. Like I make sure everything's safe, you know what I mean? So I'm looking at this thing and I'm just panicking, and like, you know, I started like thinking through my head like, okay, there's no way, like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. And then of course, you know, me and her, we talked about our plan and stuff, and we said we'll talk further, like, you know, with her parents and stuff in another day. And I was like, screw it, okay. So I remember I walked out of there and I saw my friend came in as I was leaving, and it was my buddy that literally said he got a chick pregnant as well. Now this was really odd, because at first I'm, you know, I'm dabbing him up and like, oh, what's up, homie? He's like, oh, I'm meeting my pregnant chick. What about you? I'm like, oh yeah, I just met my pregnant chick, you know, like we were just chilling, talking, and then I realized something. He was going to the exact same table as I did with the same pregnant chick. So in my head, I'm thinking, wait a minute, bro. Like something's off here. Something's off here. He's like, oh, what do you mean? Like, you know, she told me I got her pregnant and stuff. And then like, I remember I looked at him like, bro, she told me I got her pregnant. So this is where things got fun, because I remember me and my friend were kind of like talking and like in between that door, and we are like saying like, we should like both go up to her and see who's the real father. And we're like, screw it. Like, let's do it. Like, I'm on, like, let's go. So I remember me and him, we walked up to her and we're like, yo, what's up? You know, like we pulled up our gang. No, I'm just kidding. We weren't really gangsters. We were just two random teenagers, but I'm gonna be honest. But I remember we walked up to her and we sat down at the table beside her, and we're like straight up like, okay, so listen, apparently we're both the father. So unless, you know, you're lying, what the heck's going on? So as we were sitting there, we're kind of like, you know, like obviously like interrogating her in a way. And I remember she said these words, and I actually felt kind of bad, but at the same time it was kind of funny, where she was like, oh, I remember like after like a week of not talking to you, Bubba, I was talking to him, and honestly, like when I got the stick and it said I was pregnant, I wasn't sure who was who. So I was kind of going off my killer instincts to sell whose baby's whose, and if the baby kicks, then it's yours. Bruh, you literally found out you were just pregnant. A baby's not gonna kick in your stomach. Dude, honestly, it was just a whole like lot of BS. I'm gonna be honest. Like it made no sense to me whatsoever what she just said to me. It was like the baby was gonna like mind read us and like just be like, he's the father, and then send like the mother some like major magical powers to tell who's the dad. Like, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. The kid's not gonna whip his wand out and say, you're my father. Like, no. So I remember me, him, and her were talking, and we were just going through this all, and we're like, listen, like this doesn't make any sense. You need to run through with us exactly what you mean, like what's going on. And I want to say like she was like kind of like getting to that verge of crying. So we like, me and my friend kind of backed off. We're like, okay, we're not gonna talk about this anymore. But we told her like, once you've actually found out who the real father is, tell us, you know, like be honest with us. And she said obviously okay and stuff like that. Like we weren't gonna like really go harsh on this girl, because she is, you know, she was pregnant. Like that was a real thing. And all I'm gonna say is, guys, is that after a week later, I ended up getting a phone call from my buddy saying, bro, you are so lucky. And the reason I was so lucky is because the kid was actually his. And yeah, it felt good not being a dad. You know, even though I'm called Bubba, and you know, in most languages Bubba means daddy, it feels good. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for all the support on these amazing videos. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace. Okay, so for all the girls watching, I just want to let you know, if you're in any way in middle school or high school, please, and I mean please, stay away from guys that want to get you pregnant. Because I'm not gonna lie, there's some weirdos out there that would love to get a kid. And I'm telling you one thing, bringing a kid into this generation or world is honestly the last thing I want to do. But today's story is the most insane story ever, and honestly, I gotta say this, it's gonna be a wild one. So my opinion, sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because seriously, over 67% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, which is absolutely just goofy. So just subscribe and let's get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's video is I'm pregnant. Now, I'm not actually pregnant. I just want to let you you guys know, nor have I ever had a kid, but me having a lot of, well, devil's tango could always lead to having a kid. And for all the people that are like, oh, like, what do you mean, Bubba? Just use like protection. You'll never get a kid. Yeah, I'm just gonna say this now. If you guys didn't know already, at least 13 out of 100 people get pregnant even if they use a literal protection rubber thingy. And I'll say this much, me in high school, I was a pretty bad boy and I thought I had like 100% pullout game, so I never really actually paid attention to that. And I always kind of just did it raw dog style, if that makes any sense. I remember one time though, there was a girl back in high school that I was seeing a lot of the time. And in a way, me and her were like friends with benefits, but at the same time, like we really wanted to like maybe conceal the lock and maybe actually become in a relationship. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was never really good at relationships back in high school. I didn't see a point in it because if you guys didn't see my video where I explained that dating in high school is dumb, well, that's what I thought in high school. I thought I was just dumb. A time in high school is to when to really like figure out what you want to do with your future and basically do the devil's tango with all the people that you will not probably see in your future. At least that's what I thought. But going on, I remember one time I ended up hanging out with this girl that was my friends with benefits, and me and her, we decided to go to her place. And when we were at her place, I remember me and her were just talking about basic stuff and really just talking about what the future could hold for us if we ever did get together. Like, I think most people that are like friends with like an opposite gender would basically have this conversation of like, hey, like what if we like started dating, and basically lead to like what could happen to the future. And then I remember one thing led to another. Me and her, we started talking about having a kid. Now, as a joke, I remember I always used to say that I want my kid to be named Yoda. And yes, I would love for my kid to be named Yoda, because imagine like if he gets older and he's super cool, then he could be called Broda. Okay, that sounds weird, but you guys know what I mean. Like, I don't know, having a kid at such a young age and thinking about it in high school seems like a really cool future. Like, don't tell me that a lot of you guys haven't thought about growing up and having a kid and having a family and all this parental stuff. I don't know, now that I'm 21 and basically telling stories and making YouTube videos for a living, having a kid would be pretty terrifying. But I remember basically me and this girl, we were talking about it, and honestly, I remember she looked at me and said, honestly, like, do you want to like maybe like actually like have a kid? Wait, what is what I said? I was super confused that she literally just asked me to get her pregnant and I didn't know what to say. So I decided to tell her like, no, like I don't think it's a good idea, and that maybe me and her should maybe stop seeing each other. And you guys got to understand, like when a friends with benefits wants to become more than, well, friends with benefits, it could lead to a lot of dangerous territory. So that's when I usually decide to close it off, because for some reason girls have a faster way of like connecting to others than guys do, I guess. I have no idea. But I remember basically she was like talking to me and stuff, maybe like talk me down and like say like, oh, like no, it's fine, like we can keep seeing each other, like don't be nervous. But me, I decided that this would be the last time I saw her. So her knowing that, I remember she ended up going to the bathroom and I have no idea what she did, but she was in there for a while. And I remember she came out, and me, as I was going to my backpack to pull out a rubber, she looked at me and said, oh, like we don't need that, like don't worry about it. But then I told her, no, like I'm gonna use a rubber, like obviously. And if you guys don't know what I mean by a rubber, I mean like a condom. I just want to let you guys know, always use protection if you guys are gonna go do the devil's tango. But then I remember I looked at her and said, okay, I'm just gonna get one, like come on, like you gotta understand, I gotta use one. And then she said, oh, like I have one for you. And then she pulled out one out of her pocket, like she had it there the whole time. I thought maybe she was like mentally preparing for me and stuff like that the whole time, and maybe she just knew that was gonna happen, so she wanted one to like pull out instantly as we're in the moment. So I remember I decided to put that one on, and me and her, we ended up doing the devil's tango. But as me and her were doing it, I remember after everything was over, I ended up going to the bathroom and I ended up taking off the condom. When I did, I remember I looked down and I like was pulling like the thing off, and one thing I realized was that there was a hole in it. I remember I was freaking out and like thinking like, what? Like how did I put a hole in this thing? Like there's no way. Like that's it. Like she's gonna get pregnant. Like I'm done for. So I remember I came out of the room literally not wearing anything and saying, hey, yo, there's literally like a hole in this. She looked at me and like kind of giggled at first, but then kind of looked at me all serious saying, oh, wait, are you serious? Oh my goodness. Like there's no way there's actually a hole in it. Oh my goodness. Like, okay, we have to talk this through. So basically me and her had a conversation about what we should do. And I told her instantly, go get plan B. If you guys don't know what plan B is, it's basically a way to like make sure like a woman doesn't get pregnant, or at least helps out to like make sure a woman doesn't get pregnant. So that's what we did. I remember me and her, we got dressed, we went to my car, we drove to the nearest store, and basically I got her plan B. Afterwards, I remember I went back home, she took the pill, blah, 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 and one thing led to another. The next day ended up happening. I remember I ended up going to school, and the whole entire night I could not sleep, because I won't lie to you, that shock and scare of getting someone pregnant is terrifying. And also the percentage rate of plan B actually working is 95%. Okay, so like you never know what's gonna happen, dude. Like that 5% of my little swimmers could be like, ooh, egg, we're gonna get an egg. Like you never know, dude. So I'm like freaking out at school, just like walking around the hallway thinking like, that's it, my life's over, you know, I'm gonna be in like childcare development. Like I'm done. Okay, like I'm done, dude. Like I didn't know what to think. But then I remember as we were walking around, I saw the girl, my friends with benefits, and me and her, we would never really like actually like talk together at school because we didn't want people like putting a connection together that me and her were like talking or anything. Because, you know, obviously we were only friends with benefits. That would mean like if we really wanted to move on and date someone else, we could. But then I remember she decided to run up to me as she saw me at school in the hallway, and she ran up to me saying, Bubba, like I need to talk to you like now. Okay, is what I said. And then I remember me and her, we ended up going to another room, which was our science classroom that no one was in at the time because science, you know, wasn't on yet. And basically I remember she looked at me and she held her stomach saying, Bubba, I'm pregnant. Wait, what is what I said? I was like, are you kidding me? Out of the 5%, you got pregnant? Like I remember I was freaking out and I was just panicking back to back to back. I didn't know what to think. So I remember literally that day right after school, I remember me and her, we got into a car and we went to a clinic and we talked about it through and stuff. And literally, apparently I have like no say in what happens to that kid, is what the doctor told me. So she kept telling me over and over, oh, like it's not your choice, it's the mother's choice. But like it's my little swimmers is what I told her, but she didn't care. She didn't care at all what I have to say. So I remember as that was going on, I remember I looked at her and said, okay, listen, I understand it's her choice and her body. I understand. But at the same time, you gotta understand, I am too young for this. I basically gave her like the speech of, hey, I'm a high schooler. Understand that. And she kept telling me how like it's very common for high schoolers to have this issue and stuff. And honestly, to this day, it freaked me out. But then I remember she ended up making the choice that she didn't want to have a kid. And you guys know what happens the rest. I'm not going to say because obviously there's a lot of people with different opinions when it comes to the word abortion. But at the same time, life heads in many directions. And some people don't get to have and enjoy the life that we want. I don't know. There's no reason. But at the end of the day, it was one of the biggest scares of my life. And to this day, all I'm going to tell you guys watching this video is always be careful because you never know what's going to happen. There was more to the story, but honestly, that's a story for another time because obviously, you know, telling our parents what ended up happening was not easy, but that's a story for another day. Anyways, guys, follow for more embarrassing but crazy stories. Peace out, guys. Okay, so on this channel, I'm not gonna lie to you, I talk a lot about the Devil's Tango. And one thing I'll say about it is that I have 100% pullout game. Okay, maybe 99%. But this 1% that I am missing is today's story. So before I get into it, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And on top of that, join me live on Kick streaming, telling embarrassing stories just like this one. Other than that, let's just jump straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome to, well, a really awkward but scary story. Now, as you guys may know, on the channel, you guys comment a lot. How did you not, you know, have children? And many of you guys think that I have like 1,000 children just running around in this universe, and I'm gonna say this right now, I do not. And how do I know this for sure? Because every time I have done the Devil's Tango, I have 100% pullout game. But this one time, I remember back when I was in grade 11, things were very different. I remember back when I was in grade 11, I was a workaholic. I mean, I worked way more than I actually should have, knowing I had school and then work on top of that, and then the gym and a whole lot of things that I was just too busy doing, and honestly not enough time to relax. And the only times I would relax is when I got home very late at night, around like 2:30 in the morning, to basically go to sleep and, you know, maybe beat one out and have a good night. But obviously one thing about me is that back when I was in grade 11, I was also a massive player. So the chances of me getting a woman to, like, you know, basically do the Devil's Tango with me was very high. And I remember one night at work, I was swiping through Tinder, just doing my thing, you know, just swiping away, you know, left, right, basically trying to find attractive women for me to do the Devil's Tango. But I remember one time I ended up going on my phone and I saw I got a match from this girl that actually didn't live that far from me. But I remember what I decided to do when I matched with this girl was basically message her and see if she wanted to hang out. And apparently this girl was like a real hot shot. Like she was apparently really popular and a lot of people knew of her. A lot of more people knew of her than I guess me, which is pretty interesting. So I remember it got to the point where I ended up DMing her and I'm like, yo, so like when do you want to hang out? She messaged me back right away, obviously, but she was really like telling me about her life more and telling me that she was a really busy person and that she would have no time for me. And that's when I decided to, you know, put her on the spot and say, what are you doing tonight? Now, like I said earlier, I work a lot. I do a lot of different things. And honestly, like me having any rest is not there. So I remember I ended up asking her, you know, what are you doing tonight? Like, you free? And she replied with, actually, you know what? Tonight I am free. Why? Do you want to hang out tonight? And that's when I decided to message her saying that I would come pick her up after I'm done work at a really late time. Now, this time I was working at a restaurant. So restaurants usually close really late at night. And I ended up basically ending my shift around, I want to say like, I don't know, maybe like 12:30 at night. So at 12:30 at night, I basically ended up, you know, getting in my car, driving all the way to her, picking her up, and then bringing her back all the way to my place. And when things got to my place, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was the most awkward thing ever. Because I remember when we got to my place, me and her, we basically ended up, you know, going to my room and we basically sat there, and I won't lie to you, we didn't really have much to talk about. Because one thing is that me and her were two very different people. Like, she was a graduate and stuff, and, you know, she had college going on. And me, I was still a high school student, just, you know, beating my meat and working all the time. Like, I really did not have much to relate with her, which is not a good thing, I guess, but at the same time, I mean, she found me attractive and I found her attractive, so I guess that's enough to go off of. Anyways, I remember later on that night, me and her, we ended up just sitting down watching a movie. We didn't get cuddly or anything because obviously I didn't want to like jump the gun since, well, I literally don't know this person on my bed at the moment, but you know, it is what it is. So me and her, we start watching a movie. I decided to go downstairs, make some popcorn and bring it back up. And I remember when I came back up with the popcorn and, you know, basically me and her were deciding what movie to watch. She wanted to watch a horror movie. Now I'm telling you guys this right now, I can't watch horror movies. I don't like horror movies. I don't see the thrill in them. I don't like it at all. At that point, just watch Fast and Furious and just get the to be continued at the end. That's enough of a thrill for me. But obviously for her, she wanted to watch something scary with me, which I'm not gonna lie to you, I could not do. So basically we ended up putting on the horror movie because obviously I'm not gonna say no and look like a wussy in front of her because this is my first time meeting this hot chick. And I want to obviously maybe see her again if I get the chance. By the way, I did not get the chance to, but going on. And basically from there, I remember me and her, we just ended up watching this movie and it was really boring. We literally sat there like two people just like being absolute strangers, which we were, but you know how awkward it is when like a person's sitting like, actually here, I'll show you an example. Basically, this was her and this was me. We're just sitting on our beds like this. What are we supposed to do? So obviously at that moment, I decided to be the ultimate Rizzler and try to put my arm around her. I tried to put my arm around her. I ended up putting it around her, and apparently she liked that, which I mean, I guess it makes sense she would like that because she's at my house and she was interested in me. So I guess it worked out. And one thing led to another. We ended up getting really close together and we ended up doing the Devil's Tango. Now this is where the story gets really intense because at this moment, you guys have to remember, I was really tired. It was like almost 3 in the morning. I barely got any sleep from working, and I'll say this much, life was really getting to me. And I remember that night specifically, I was so tired to the point where I just like wanted to sleep. And I was like, you know what? Like, screw it. Like, let's just do this girl and go to bed. So me and this girl, we did the Devil's Tango. And I remember I decided to basically do what I do best. And I ended up basically, you know, hitting her from behind and yeah, all that stuff happened and you guys get the gist. But I remember midway through me hitting it from the back, my head was like just not feeling good at all. And I remember I ended up like getting distracted, not focusing on my A game. And usually like it got to the point where I was getting so aroused and so confused. And let's just say one thing led to another. I ended up doing the Devil's Cream, I think. Now, the reason I say I think is because I didn't know if I finished, to be honest. At that moment, I didn't know if I actually, you know, did it. You know, like I didn't know. So I remember I ended up like basically, you know, pulling out. I ended up going to the bathroom and I realized that, you know, my eggplant was, well, not as massive as it usually is. And this is where things get really confusing because I remember this girl was like really confused and she ended up coming into the bathroom saying, Bubba, like, did you finish? Yeah, is what I said, really questioning if I actually did. And then that's when she looks at me with her eyes wide open saying, you do realize you weren't wearing protection, right? Yeah, I did. I know, is what I told her right after. She just looks at me really confused on what I just did. And me, I'm just thinking in my head, oh God, this girl thinks I'm trying to breed her. You know, it just got really, really intense. We just started staring at each other. And this is where everything gets really bizarre. Because I look at her and I said, to be honest with you, I don't know if I nutted in you. And she looked at me and started basically freaking out. She's like, are you kidding me? Like, I thought you were good at this. Like, you told me you've done like this so many times. Like, are you joking? I did tell her, by the way, that I was the master of the Devil's Tango. But going on. And then from there, basically, me and her got really, really awkward. And we didn't know what to do. And honestly, I looked at her and said, yo, I'm not gonna lie to you. Let's just go to the nearest drugstore and let's just get plan B. We ended up going to the nearest drugstore. We ended up buying plan B. And when we're sitting in my car, we're just looking at each other inside my car. And she looks at me saying, so how do I do this? You never took in plan B? Like what? And then, yeah, basically I had to teach her how to take a plan B, which to be honest, I didn't really know what to do. But when it came out of the package, it was like a little pill. So I guess, you know, it's just not rocket science. Just swallow the pill and pray. And yeah, that is basically it. I remember from there, she ended up wanting to go home. So I drove her home and I ended up driving back. And as I was driving back, I was kind of looking at the package to see like if plan B really works. And apparently plan B doesn't always work. So I remember that night, I ended up not sleeping at all, basically praying with my hands crossed that she would not get pregnant. And that is basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, just follow for more embarrassing but crazy stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.